lovely computer people, and welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market, where today we're looking at this. Now, we already covered Canna Lilies, specifically Canova Shades Orange, right? And I didn't cover the regular Canna Lily because I was waiting for the one out front to bloom, and it turns out it's not the red Canna Lily I thought it was. It turns out it's a yellow. Okay. Not heartbroken about this, but I was determined when I started with Canna Lilies to cover all the other permutations of foliage because they're not just green, and Menace here says hi. Anyway, so this variety is called Australia. It's still Canna X generalis, or Canna Lily. It's still in the Cannaceae family. And the word canna comes from the word canna with a K, spelled the same way but with a K, which means cane or reed. I'm going to have an interesting fact about that in a moment, but we'll get back to that. Now, this plant is a hybrid, though Canna lilies in general originated in North America and South America and India, so those three places. It's hardy in USDA zone 7B through 10B, though with some careful ground modification, you probably could grow them in New Jersey. You can grow them as far north as New Jersey, you just have to be really clever about mulch and positioning. The soil pH preference is 6 to 6.5. The exposure is full sun to partial sun. The height can be up to 5 feet on this specific variety, which means its width can be about 8 inches to a full foot. Now, what makes this plant special in my case, in my viewpoint, is look at the colors. It is an intense reddish purple color. I mean, look at it. Becky, look at her canna. Oh. Oh. Move the light around. See that? Yeah, and that's the foliage color. So you got more than just the flower, but the flower is an intense bright red, and unfortunately, I'm going to aim the camera up just a little bit. This bloomed a few days ago, and it may bloom again in a week or two from the other sprouts, but, I mean, with the foliage, at least once the bloom is done, you have something to look at, which is why the variegated varieties are so important. Now, this plant is sometimes sold as Canna Zauber. I stole that from the Plant Delights site. I usually don't use any of their information, but I was looking for if this is a natural variety or a hybridized variety, and everyone seems to agree it's hybridized, including Plant Delights. Now, this Cannas of this type used to be called Canna X Hybrid, but then they recently changed it back to Canna X Generalis. Sometimes they drop the X and it's just Canna Generalis, which is incorrect since it is a hybrid. Now, this plant has a bunch of pests that you need to know about. Japanese beetles, slugs, snails, aphids, and leaf rollers. Well, I certainly have the mollusks in my yard because we are in the southeast, and, well, what should die doesn't. But also it can get diseases. The aster yellows, Canna mosaic virus, leaf spot, rust, and bacterial blight. In excessively wet, cold areas, the rhizomatous roots can rot, and that can spread, and it's basically root rot, so you got to be careful. Now, I should point out that these are not true lilies, and interestingly enough, these technically aren't stems in the conventional sense. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to zoom in. Menace. Yes, this guy right here. This is Menace. With that mask on his face, he thinks he's Batman, but whatever. Anyway. So, these are technically not stems. They're actually the petioles of the leaves clasped around each other. I'm assuming that there is ultimately a stem in there, because by the time you get up to the flower stalk, there it is. But a lot of this is just clasping leaves, so what you call stems is really just leaves. Now, these are not true lilies. And I talked about this in the Formosa Lily video. A lot of things that are sold as quote-unquote lilies aren't actually lilies. I mean, the peace lily, for instance, Spathiphyllum, is not a lily. Daylilies, Americalis, not a lily. Formosa lilies, Lilium formosum, actually a lily. And this is another one of those plants. Now, the best part about it, though, is the rhizomes can be made into flower, and there are actually two specific canna species that are best for this, but your conventional cannas can be used in that way if you're in a insecure food situation and you're desperate. But also, the young shoots are edible and nutritious. So there's that. I've read that this is across the species, or at least the ones that are commonly available, like Canna X generalis, so there's that to consider. Even if not, these large leaves probably, well, they dry out and become kind of leathery, so they're definitely compost fuel. In colder climates where this is growing in the ground, typically they'll top cleave the top off, and then this stuff up here will be used as compost fuel, and it's very good at that. The decomposers like it a lot. In our use, this plant comes in. It has its primary value as a tall centerpiece plant, or something to create a temporary but natural wall effect. Sort of like if you plant a line of Zanzibar castor beans and you let them get to full size, they will eventually have a tree-like barrier thing going for them. This does about the same thing, except it is perennial in our climate, and that is Zone 8B, which we've been moved up to this year because climate change is real. So, this is Canna Generalis Australia. I know we went back to one. I'm hoping to get one of the Bengal ones in here, which is the other canna. It's like the other white canna meat, whatever. But it's known for having even crazier uh, variegations on the leaves, which is always a bonus. So, if you like this video, hit like or subscribe. If you have any comments about Canna Lilies, please put them in the comments section. Additionally, the Forge blog is running prime time. We've just done some of our first fungus posts instead of plants, so you might want to read up on those. I believe the last two were hemlock shelf varnish, which is a type of reishi that's found in the southeast, and Jackson's Amanita. So that's something else you might want to look into. So beyond that, hit like or subscribe if you like this episode, and as always, folks, keep them growing. Thanks for watching.